Hey guys, welcome to Torres Talk. So right here we have Glynn Hodges, being my interviewee. How are you doing today, Glynn?
Good. Glad to be with you today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you making the time to be out here and want to talk to my guests and my viewers really about how your story came to be and what you're doing now, and go through the obstacles that you have faced.
Well, how my story began?
Yeah, if we can, let's dig a little bit into it, and then we'll start asking some questions about how you overcame some things and how you got into the coaching results industry.
Well, my background is I grew up in an agrarian community down in middle Georgia. My father was a third-generation farmer, and at a real early age, I discovered I didn't want to be a farmer. I'd much rather ride my horse across the pastures and the fields than to work in the fields.
Good old country boy.
And so then I went to junior college, thinking I'd probably go into med school. And my sophomore year, I was told that I needed to take physics, which to this day I still haven't figured out why. If I don't want to be an orthopedic surgeon, but I need to have physics to get into med school. But after about 3 days of physics, I concluded I knew less than I knew the first day, so I dropped it. And I took a Spanish course, and I sat down next to a young lady that I married after I graduated from college, and still married to her.
That's amazing. That's crazy that you fell in love with your college sweetheart. You made it happen, and you guys have been married for so long. That's crazy. You know, not many people, even myself, I thought I was going to have that kind of life, but it didn't work for me. But it's amazing to see so many people that I meet now have those similar stories.
And it's amazing. The divorce rate is high, but yet there are a lot of people that have long marriages still. Maybe the divorce rate's a little bit higher than it was in past years. But
wow. It's so true. I'm a son of two parents that divorced. I was about 17 when that happened, and worked through it. And now it seems really neat that even through divorce, there's always a positivity behind it. Where my family is still even closer. My stepmother and my mom are best friends now. They text almost on a daily basis. My dad is doing well for himself. It's really cool to see that even on a negative impact in your life, there's always a positivity come from it.
well, there is. I so often say, a loss is not a loss unless you fail to learn. So there's a lesson in everything we experience if we just look for it. And apparently, everyone in your family was very positive and wanted to find a way to keep the families connected.
That's so true. I appreciate you realize now and voicing it to me. That's really neat. Let's get kind of into the question. So how long have you been in the coaching industry?
Well, for years. Just only in the last 3.5 to 4 years have I really monetized it, but I've coached, mentored, and done consulting work pro bono, a lot of times with my own employees and clients. And I just was so passionate about it that I got some specified or specific training in the field through the John Maxwell organization and began to take it to another level. So I'm doing what I love. As Napoleon Hill says, you need to be passionate about what you do. So I believe if you do what you love and love what you do, you'll have success your whole life through.
That's so amazing. So kind of tell me, we talked a little bit about your story and, the businesses that you grew, one being a staffing agency, and how you kind of navigated through that and find your passions through helping people ultimately. What was the real reason that you chose to be a results coach and be a life coach for countless people?
Well, as I said before, I've done it for so many years, and I love people. I discovered at a very early age that I love people. I loved talking with people that were at a level that was far ahead of me. And so even when I was in junior high school, I can remember making an appointment with a couple of physicians after school to sit down and talk with them about what a medical doctor would do and if I would want to do it, because I love helping people. And I had been around surgeries and emergency rooms and whatever all my life, and then especially even after I had my staffing service, I handled a lot of the risk management, so there I was exposed to it. But as I mentioned earlier, I didn't go the medical route because of a little course in physics that I decided just wasn't quite right for me.
I gotta tell you, physics was definitely a difficult one for me. You know, working in the science field for a little bit, and through college a little bit, and doing this research, really was not too keen for me. I was not having fun with it. It was just more about getting the work done to me. And then I kind of fell into business and wanting to help people over that past few years. You know, that's really great that you're able to have those moments to actually ask questions and figure it out that way, instead of, you know, kind of putting your life into it a little bit like I did and then find that you're not too interested. I want to ask some of the most impactful moments of your life, you know, the obstacles that you had to face. How did you overcome those, and, you know, where was your mind on that?
Well, the three that actually come to mind, probably the granddaddy of them all, though, was in 2009 when I closed a C Corp that I've operated for over 25 years. But if you look back at history, if you weren't keeping up with it then, we had a pretty big downturn in the economy, the greatest downturn since the big depression or the Great Depression. Started in 2007. I think a lot of the economists will say 2008, but in the staffing industry, that is a leading indicator both of a downturn in the economy and an upturn. So I saw it coming, tried to navigate it, but just wasn't quite shrewd enough to navigate it. So here was a business that I knew backwards and forwards, that operated it for many years, but in spite of that, business that was valued at over $2.5 million with not very much debt. I closed it with a lot of debt, and it pretty much wiped out all my savings. And I did everything that one shouldn't do in order to try to keep the business going, because it was such a profitable business. I knew if I could navigate those rough waters that I would make it back pretty quickly, because it was very, very lucrative business, but I didn't. And that 6 months following that were probably some of the toughest times of my life. But when the going gets tough, that's when you begin to do a lot of self-evaluation.
Of course.
And you really learn who you are. And I probably got in the best shape of my life during that time. There was nothing to keep me from going to the gym.
Yeah.
And and that really, I'm a firm advocate of physical fitness, and I think that I credit that along with my faith for getting me through those tough times. It helped me to decide what I wanted to do. I really kicked around for several years trying to find my niche. I started blogging a little bit, did a little online marketing, and I met people all over the world that I still have relationships with. And again, as I would evaluate, I'd keep looking at it, and it all went back to involvement with people and helping people. And one of my favorite quotes was one of my old mentors, Zig Ziglar: "If you help enough other people get what they want, you'll get what you want."
That's so powerful, you know, being someone that kind of sat down after a breakup and really tried to figure out what I wanted. You know, I was very similar in that I wanted to help people. And I was told by several friends and family members to focus on yourself, you know, build yourself up to go, then help people.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought that was a disservice. You know, I wanted to help people first, because that's always been my personality. I've always been interested in seeing other people succeed and seeing them grow from certain instances. And very similar to that quote, it'll come to me one day. And just put my story out there so other people can understand and hear their story and, share those stories to other people so that they can come out of, bad spots like myself, like yourself, different obstacles that you have to face in life. Because as we said earlier, life is a journey, not a destination.
It is, and doing what you're doing today, because I'll be the low end of the totem pole of the type people that you'll soon be interviewing. But what you'll learn, that I've learned, is you'll be able to ratchet it up. I would call people. In fact, I had almost had our current president lined up to be on a program I used to host, and I've been working with his admin assistant, and then he decided that he was going to run for president, and so I backed off. But the way I would do it is I would build on every person I interviewed.
Yeah.
They'd say, well, who have you interviewed? What's your listening audience?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say, well, such and so and such and so, and then I have so and so scheduled for July and August, etc. And so I built a lot of excitement, and I would always make sure I was excited when I talked with them.
That's amazing. So you spoke about one of the obstacles that you had to face and how you came out of it, but what are the other two?
Well, the other two was, I call it an obstacle. It was a learning experience. I wasn't really looking for a job when I took my first job out of college. And in fact, I didn't even have a resume prepared. And it just was almost a joke the way I ended up with the position. In fact, I'd been working for 2 weeks when I got a call from the human resource manager. He said, "You're Glynn, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, I'm Clay Jennings. In those days they called them personnel manager." He said, "If you want to get paid or you want to have insurance, you will want to meet me because until you do, you won't." And I said, "I would love to meet you. How soon could I meet you?"
Yeah.
He said, "Well, I'll be home in 30 minutes. I said, "I'll be right down."
That's awesome.
And but the rest of the story was that I had just graduated from college, and I had worked through college. I had a part-time job, but I had just decided to get married when I was offered the job, so I just took it. And my first day at work, they gave me a stack of brochures to read, and I broke out in a sweat as I was reading those things because it was like reading Greek. I didn't know what in the world they were talking about, and for 2 weeks I read technical bulletins. I'd go home at night and I'd tell my wife, I said, "I think I made a mistake." I said, "I like the people there, those I've met, but I don't have a clue what we're doing." Well, it turns out that the reason everyone else understood what was going on and I didn't was all my peers were double E's and M's. And I had a degree in journalism and didn't really like to write. I really did better in fraternity life than I did in academics. I was pretty good in fraternity life.
See, that's what happens sometimes. But then, once you graduate, then you're kind of hit with the notion of, now I have to get a career or start a career. So many people end up moving back home with their parents and then just take odd jobs as a waitress, waiter, small things, bartenders, stuff like that, kind of what I had thought to do. And then figure out what I wanted to do. It's crazy to think that you kind of fell into that role at that position and you kind of took it on even though you didn't know at all. Like you took the time to put in your 1,000 hours to learn and become an expert. And it's very true that even if it's not in the perfect situation, but you take hold of it and own it, then you're going to see success in one way or another.
You are, and it's so funny. Going back, I wouldn't change anything about the way my career went. Certainly, I was, here the economy wasn't exactly booming when I went to work, but I wasn't concerned about getting a job. I really wasn't, because my part-time job I had, I could actually support my wife and I.
Yeah.
We had a 1-bedroom furnished apartment, and life was good. And so I really wasn't concerned about it. I didn't know precisely what I wanted to do, other than I knew I wanted to travel, and I didn't want to stay in an office all the time, and because I was a country boy, and I can remember first time I ever got on an airplane was after I graduated from college. I remember I flew to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which I discovered. I was thinking that, my goodness, surely I can find something prettier to travel to than this, because if you fly in Pittsburgh, it's usually cloudy. If it's in the winter, it's snowing or about to snow, or it's raining and cold, and when it snows, it's dirty snow. And we could be flying out of Atlanta on a beautiful sunny day, and then start to make the ascent into Pittsburgh, and it's just like darkness.
Wow, so you went to Pittsburgh. What was the ultimate reason for Pittsburgh?
Well, that was corporate headquarters for the Westinghouse Electric Corporation, which was a Fortune 50 company in those days that I went to work for. In fact, a good friend of mine that I went to Westinghouse Sales School with later became the president and chairman of the board, a fellow by the name of Steve Tritch.
Wow. Wow.
He was out of Trafford, Pennsylvania.
That's crazy. The connections that you made through your lifetime is just remarkable for me. You know, being someone that's new into the space and just started networking ultimately about this past couple of years, it's huge to see where you can go with it, and it's like you said, kind of level up each person that you would interview or just network with.
Well, if you know, never underestimate what a person can do for you, regardless. It may be the janitor, it may be the CEO of a company, it may be a secretary, it may be a receptionist, but a good lesson that I learned there is that of all the people you meet, if you'll treat that janitor just like you would the CEO or the president, it'll take you places you never ever dreamed of. I know a multi-million-dollar corporation that was built on an idea that came about because a guy that cut grass was talking to another guy that cleaned toilets. And the guy with the clean toilets, who had started out with a very meager janitorial service, he grew it into a pretty good sized company, wanted to meet an individual, and he was talking to this fellow that had a lawn maintenance company, and he was telling him who he wanted to meet. In fact, the guy he wanted to meet was John Maxwell, Dr. John Maxwell. The guy that was on the janitorial service was a fellow by the name of Paul Martinelli. Grew up on the streets, an Italian guy, grew up in Jersey. And the fellow Scott Fay that had the lawn service. And so they were both entrepreneurs, and they would swap stories at times. And he told Scott, says, you know, I've just got this great idea of how John Maxwell can really help more people, create more leaders throughout the world. But said, I don't know how to reach you. He said, well, I know him, I cut his yard. So he set up the meeting, and that's the way the John Maxwell team got started. I met with John, and of course John, the shrewd man he is, asked Paul about his business plan and said, here it is. He said, well, he said, you come up with $750,000 and I'll match it and we'll kick it off.
Wow.
So he went out, got the money together, and they formed what's known as the John Maxwell Team.
Wow. And it's crazy to think that, you know, the books of John Maxwell, it's been influential for me. And the fact that I was able to meet you just kind of recently and you're part of that team, it was really big for me because you have so much knowledge. You've dealt with people that have that kind of success, and for you to take the time and talk to me and on almost a now daily basis, because we go hang out with different networking groups and we see each other a lot. It's really cool. It's
Wow.
really neat to actually talk to you and have those quotes come out and really gravitate with me and really just put me in a different light and put me in a different headspace to do what I want to do. And I really do appreciate that.
Well, it's my pleasure, James. There's nothing in the world I enjoy more than helping someone along the journey of life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's powerful. It's really is powerful what you do for people and what you plan on doing with me and so many other of your of your clients?
Well, you're not just the average James or the average Joe. You're all about improving yourself. And I believe soon after we met, you started going to Chattanooga Self-Improvement Meetup,
That's right.
which I now describe as a leadership factory. We bring people in there, some very wise people, some people that are younger like you, but we all are part of that group because we know that everyone has something that they can learn from the other. People my age are wanting to learn about your group and how to best connect with your age group, what you need, how we can help. Likewise, you're wanting to rely on the wisdom that maybe some of us have, and there are plenty of people in there far wiser than me. It's something I've learned a long time ago. It's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know, and do you know how to get the information you need.
Sure.
And as a general rule, people love helping other people. And I have relied on that for many years. Probably my biggest crutch is when I need some help. Just for example, if I came up to you and I said, James, I really need your help, what would you say?
I say, Glenn, what do you need? I have ears. Let me hear it.
And it doesn't matter who it is. When you show that humility, people just naturally want to buy in if they see that you've got a worthy request or cause that you're working on.
So true. So, since we just recently met, of course, I'm going to be utilizing you as a resource to help with the wisdom aspect and, kind of navigate you through some things. Where do you see yourself in 5 years from now?
I see myself helping more people. Maybe, although I said I wouldn't have employees again, I may put together a leadership team, just like John Maxwell has done. One's too great, smaller number to create anything great. And John, in addition to all that he's doing throughout the United States, he's concentrating on Latin America. Presidents of countries over there invite him to bring the John Maxwell Team to go in and to train their people on leadership. The thousands of people have been trained by the John Maxwell Team. Everyone travels over at their own expense, but that's part of what we refer to as the Maxwell DNA. Give, and give. Add value.
That's huge. So in 5 years, you plan on being able to touch so many more people, possibly grow a team. If you could go back in time, let's say when you're 10 years old, or the pivotal moments out of college, what kind of advice, tips, or comments would you give yourself to kind of put you in a better headspace and better light?
Read, and read some more, and meet more people, and travel anytime you can. Probably, if I had to do it over again, and bear in mind, it's a little bit different when I got out of school. When I got out of college, people were expected to go to work. And my parents would have considered it a waste of money if I'd said, I'm just going to travel for a year. Go town to town. Maybe if you might have to wash some dishes or mop some floors or whatever. But, you're not interested in the lifestyle. It's the experience and meeting people and seeing places and learning about places you've never been before. So that's one thing I would like to do. And I see more and more people your age doing this to allow them to kind of find themselves.
Most definitely.
And maybe where you want to live. I might would have, if I had discovered Colorado earlier, as much as I enjoy snow skiing, I might would have lived out there.
It's a beautiful place. Going up to the Mile High City in Denver, it's a dream of mine to go out there. Haven't had the opportunity to travel too much. Luckily I've had the opportunity to go down to where my grandparents live in Colombia and Cali, and it's gorgeous out there. We went over to the mountains areas to see the big statue of Jesus just overlooking the city, and I found myself just venturing off. I left my family back towards the statue, and I just started walking and running, honestly, through the hills. and just hearing the different sounds of the cities, because there's a city right in the center of the valley, and then you have Khalid, the downtown area, off about maybe 15 miles away. And I was in a perfect point where I can walk over a little bit, hear one side of the city, and then the other side if I walk another 15 feet. And it's beautiful, the things that we have around us that we take for granted. I mean, being the hills in the scenic city, people seeing these trails that are taken care of now and being cared for. It's huge to be able to travel and to get these experiences, because you learn so much from them. And then if you decide to read, like you're saying, read, you can make connections with people, different locations, different geographic regions, and understand the socioeconomic behind it, understand the psychology behind people that live in those areas. It's huge to be able to travel when you get a chance.
The other thing I would suggest is journaling, and I like the word because journaling seems like it's too time consuming for some people.
Yeah.
So I use the word jotting. Just take a few moments, even if it's just your iPhone or a voice memo, and just when you have a thought that you experience something, go on and make some kind of record of it so you can remember it. But I rely on stories so much in what I do to make points. And when you can have your own stories that you've experienced yourself to illustrate a point to someone else, it has far greater meaning than when you use someone else's story.
That's so true.
And it's stories that's probably one of the most powerful way of emphasizing things so that an audience will always remember.
Very true. Anecdotes are massive when it comes to public speaking, something I'm practicing now so I can much speak to that on my own. Anecdotes and stories are what really gets people interested. It grabs those emotional ties, and it gives you the similarity and commonalities with people. Because a lot of people have the same thoughts, but they don't think about, oh, that person has the same drive as me, or they have the same story or something similar. And I think storytelling is something where I found myself kind of pushing towards. My passion is ultimately helping people, and helping through story is huge. Every day I meet someone new, a few people, honestly. I try to keeping that as a main thing for me, is meet people every single day. And I find myself telling other people's stories and a little bit of my story and asking them about theirs, because that's important to me. If you show interest in someone's life and ask them questions about it, they do start liking a little bit better, and they're more open to you, and they start liking, knowing you, and they trust you. And then ultimately, if you are a salesman, or if you have something that you want to do with them, you pitch that idea. For instance, asking you to come over on this interview show, just talking to me and kind of going through your life. We shared some stories, some anecdotes back to back, and it worked out really, really well. And I can feel the power that you have, and the presence that you have when you walk into the room, and it's huge. It's just I appreciate everything that you've done so far and what you plan on doing in the future.
Well, you've got one heck of a future ahead of you, James, because you don't fit the stereotype that people try to fit your age group into. The wisdom you have, the fact that you have thought through things like you have, and the way you are hungry to learn. And I use the word, my friend Les Brown talks about being hungry. You got to be hungry. And I use that illustration a lot of time with my coaching clients. Probably out of every person I coach, it's probably one out of five that I meet with that say they want me to coach. And I've got little.
That's really cool that you're very honest about your, not exactly your closing rate, but the amount of people that you touch. After 5 people, you're typically one person. And that you can see the point in life that they're at, or in their business, and be confident with it, and say that, they will be turning around in the next 12 months, because it's just their mindset at the moment.
And most of my clients come from referrals.
Yeah.
And that's good news when I get a referral, but good news travels kind of slowly. Bad news travels real fast.
Yeah,
and so if one person says, ooh, I just paid Glynn Hodges a lot of money, and I'm more in the hole now than when I started, that's not good for me.
No.
Glenn didn't do his homework, or something went sour. Because if I assure you, I can coach them if I assess that they're coachable and they're hungry, I can take them to another level. If they can't come up with goals and objectives that their friends would laugh at, I'm telling them their goals just aren't big enough.
That's so true. Your goals are supposed to scare you, and you only grow mentally, physically, spiritually when you're uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's amazing, of course.
Well, I call that's where the magic happens, when you get outside of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
There's never been a product invented or a service that's been developed where somebody didn't operate outside their comfort zone.
So
Look at Thomas Edison. 10,000 times before he ever invented successfully the incandescent light bulb. But people asked him, said, "Well, that discouraging?" He said, "No, I just discovered 9,999 ways it didn't work." And then the guy realized one morning his factory was on fire. And he was quoted at the New York Times back then as he got his son, said, "Go get your mom, tell her she's going to see the darndest fire she's ever seen in her life." The man realized he was $1 million underinsured. And the quote in the New York Times, I believe, said, "What do you plan to do, Mr. Edison?" He said, "We'll start rebuilding tomorrow, and we won't lay anybody off." All the factory workers helped clean everything up. Nobody missed getting paid that wanted to work. They built it back, and it was back in production in record time.
I have not heard that whole story, actually. That's huge, because it's the will of your subordinates or your employees. I mean, I wouldn't say subordinates because, they have one common goal. They wanted to work together and be together, ultimately, and they worked hard to do that.
Yeah. I like to study successful people, especially those that have overcome adversity. And I come up with this thing I say to myself about some of these people. Well, if he or she could do it. Look at Bethany Hamilton, the one-armed surfer. I think she's got a movie that's coming out this year, or either came out last year, and she's got a very, in fact, I got an email from her this week, something that she's doing. Just a remarkable lady. Talking about one arm, my friend Gary Guller, the only man in the world with one arm to summit Mount Everest. It took him 2 attempts before he made it. But that second time, not only did he summit Everest, but he took the largest group of cross-disadvantaged people in the world to the base camp of Everest. There were people with prosthesis, people in wheelchairs, the Sherpas had to put on their backs, people down crawling, and even the base camp, I forget what the elevation is, but that is a long way. So when my back's against the wall and it looks like that, how am I going to make it? I said, well, if Gary can summit Everest, I can accomplish this. So my question to you is, what is your Everest? Everybody has an Everest.
For me, I have to think about that for a second. I guess it would have to be my grandfather. So he had passed a few years back, and it didn't really hit me for a few days, because he would tell me stories growing up, not really about the military, because he kept that stuff, to himself, but how he became an immigrant to the country, getting onto a boat, sneaking onto the boat, enlisting in the Army underage, and going through that, and really living on the streets, and fighting his way into New York, fighting his way into being successful, marrying my grandmother very young too. They were sweethearts back when they were young, and it's powerful to see him do all that whenever he didn't know English. He didn't know anyone in the States. He didn't know anything. And for him to eventually become a property owner and rent out areas and all this, and just being a bodybuilder, being successful in different industries, that's my Everest, because I know he didn't have much. He didn't have anything. And for me to be given the ability to have connections, have my family, have the love that I do, and not be alone, that's my Everest.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Never ever forget your roots.
Very true.
And you know, I was thinking, you mentioned he couldn't speak English, and I looked at you. You always have a smile on your face,
Yeah.
and I bet your grandfather smiled. That's universal language. And so there are many different ways to communicate if we want to. There's a great book my mentor John Maxwell wrote. Everyone communicates, but few connect. And you connect, James. You have a real skill for connecting with people and conversing with them and making them feel good.
I appreciate that. You know, that's something I've been told by several people lately, and I'm a hard-headed person, so it's hard to get something into me and really make me understand. And hearing it back to back to back is it's powerful to me, and knowing what I can do to help others and actually listen and again show that comfortableness with everyone and have them open up to me so that I can tell their story and just keep getting more stories in my life and show that there is a positive behind everything. You know, that's crazy. Sorry about that. Still thinking about grandfather there, but
Yeah, but
yeah.
you see, you were authentic.
Yeah.
You were transparent, and authenticity, along with that aids your ability to be able to connect. And that's something I didn't learn by your age, and I still struggle with it, being authentic, because for so many years I was trying to be the person I thought others wanted me to be, whereas all the time there was this other person screaming, wanting to get out. And it's a real freeing feeling when you've kept someone bottled up like that within you,
Yeah.
just to finally let it out. And I always felt like I wanted everybody to like me. I wanted to please everybody, but you can't be all things to all people. There's some people that, can just hear my voice and it turns them off. Some people can read something that I write and they can't relate to it, but then there are those that do. And so that's my audience.
I fit in that audience, I feel like, very, very well. And I'm grateful, like I've been saying, for you to be a mentor to me in a lot of ways and helping me through a lot. So I guess I want to ask, kind of, what's your next project that you want to do?
Well, figure out how I can help more people, and I want to talk to more people. It gets the adrenaline flowing when I can talk with a large audience. The largest audience I've ever talked to was about 3,500 people. And so I want to upsize that. I want to go to 20,000. And I never will forget, I had to, it took me 2 tries to earn that spot to talk to the 3,500 people. I failed the first time. But I went back a year later and I made it. And that was a big accomplishment for me. It didn't mean anything to anybody else, but it was a personal thing of doing that. Although I've talked on stages since I was just a small kid, I even thought about majoring in drama at one time, but I concluded I'd starve to death. It's kind of like those in theatrics and arts in general. It's a long time before, unless they're exceptionally good, before they start making money. And then you've got some of the most renowned artists that never made any money. They became famous after they were deceased.
Yeah. It's crazy to think that posthumously people can become more famous for their work. It's hard to believe that that is the case sometimes, and that they weren't able to live through that. And I mean, I know that up above they're probably smiling and they're loving the fact that people are, loving their artwork, loving their business, loving whatever they left behind. And it's powerful to just think, are they smiling? Are they happy about their life and how it ended and how it lived on? just their legacy. Again, legacy is huge, and that's something I want to leave behind in one way or another, not just with my family, but with a lot of people that I can touch in my lifetime. It's powerful, and I want to have that legacy behind me.
Well, for a man your age to be talking about his legacy, again, shows something about the wisdom that you have. Legacy was the furthest thing from my mind when I was your age. I was all about me. Now, I never wanted to hurt anyone, but
Yeah.
I was pretty much stuck on me.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about relating back to one of your other questions earlier about trials, tribulations, and we talked about, we learned, but for my experiences, we wouldn't be here today. Because if my plan had worked out like I had it mapped out, I would have taken my boat, I would be in the Caribbean now. And my dream was just going to the Caribbean, and first of all, leaving out of here after Thanksgiving, after hurricane season, making it down to the Keys by Christmas, and then the first of the year going to the Bahamas and back to the Keys, and then working my way on up the East Coast, and then maybe back through doing the Great Loop through the Great Lakes. And, I pictured, docking in time to where I could sit up on the foredeck and have cocktails and maybe stay at the port as long as we enjoyed it and then move on. But how boring. Yes, I'd like to do that again, but if I do it, I'll just dock the boat and I'll continue to do what I love, because that's so self-centered. I love it. I love the water. I love boating. I wouldn't trade my experiences with boating for anything. But how boring to stay on that boat all the time.
Very true. I mean, just being on the sea for so long, I mean, you can enjoy a couple hours really quickly and just oversee everything, just watching whales come up to breach, watching dolphins jump out, see all this stuff. But I mean, that's a lot of time that you're kind of just thinking of potential, what are you going to do? And for me, whenever I'm sitting too long, I don't know if you're like me, but I get antsy. I start shaking my leg, and I feel like, okay, what else am I going to be doing? I can't just sit in this 20-foot boat or a 30-foot boat for so long. I got to be moving. And as you said before, whenever, sorry, I lost my train of thought, but whenever you were pretty much saying, hey, I wanted to, anyways, the story behind what you do and what I plan on doing is very powerful. I hope that hits so many people in their hearts and their minds, and that they can get their life straight, because that's what's really big on this generation. A lot more people are growing and they're trying to learn the self-development route, self-improvement, and I'm so happy to see Chattanooga, where I'm living now, be such a congregation of so many like-minded people that want to better themselves and to be the better person that they can be at any age. I wouldn't see myself, like 3 years ago, I did not see myself having friends in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s and learning from them. I was kind of self-centered a little bit, and I was like, people my age need to be around me. We're going to grow together, we're going to be best friends and stuff. And I mean, a lot of my friends from college and high school aren't around. Because with communication, it's a two-way street. If I don't reach out to you because I'm busy, then you're not reaching out to me. And the fact that so many people now that I'm around, they're interested in what I do and helping me, and I'm interested in helping them. There's no self-centeredness behind it. Everyone's reaching one common goal, and that's to be successful, leave a legacy, and leave something behind that people will love. And I think that's really, really powerful. I appreciate you coming out here, and I have one more question for you. And we talked about it in the Moxie whenever we were hanging out on Monday. Why do you gravitate to me? Why do you want to help me in so many ways?
Well, I just saw something in you. I have this innate ability to spot, shall we say, talented people, people that are exceptional, people that want something more, people that are willing to work for it, people that are like a sponge, that want to learn from others and seek guidance and can accept constructive criticism. And I saw all that in you. That's the reason I invited you to Self-Improvement Meetup, which now we've taken to a new level since we've started streaming it, so we can, with all the wisdom we have with the speakers and the people around the table, we're able to share that with the world now.
That's awesome. You know, when you told me that at first, it hit me, and again, I started kind of tearing up a little bit because I don't have those conversations with people. You know, I don't ask them, why are you around me? Because I feel like it's taboo. You know, I just kind of assume, okay, I'm likable. People like me. I like them. We open up. But to actually sit down and talk to someone and figure out really what's the reason that you're around me, or why are you around these people, and to have the genuine words that you say, that speaks volumes to everyone. And I'm sure you had this conversation with our buddy Andrew and a few of our other friends. You know, we band together because we see each other in a new way, and we see that potential and that drive and that hunger, that big hunger. That's awesome. I appreciate you coming out. You know, we're wrapping up now, but thank you so much, Glenn, for taking the time. If you want to plug yourself in real quick, you know, where the audience can find you on your website or.
Sure. Just look at glynhodges.com, and Glynn is spelled Glynn, glynhodges.com, and on Facebook, Glynn Hodges Coach, Glynn Hodges Coach. And you can find me on my regular profile, and I will be your friend.
Awesome. And again, you can find me, James Matthew Torres, on Facebook, King_James_Torres on Instagram, and you can look at my business, mainhorsemarketingllc.com. So plan on seeing more interviews like this. I have several people that I'm going to be bringing on in the next few months. So look forward to it, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Again, the viewers are, like one of my buddies, Omar Elatar with The Passionate Few says, you're the oxygen of my series right here. You know, you guys give me content, feedback, different comments, and liking and sharing it is huge, and I would really appreciate if you guys could do so. Again, thank you guys. We're here at the Edney building up in Chattanooga. So if you haven't been here and you live in Chattanooga, come out here. It's a beautiful spot. We're on 6th floor. This is all the way to the left, and it has amazing views of downtown. So you guys have a blessed day. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me, James.
Thank you.